Welcome back to a Timey Wimey Pod, where each week we dive into the timey wimey world of Doctor Who. I'm Rebecca,
I'm Haley.
and this week we are discussing Series 7, Episode 3, A Town Called Mercy. Haley, how are you?
I am happy to be here. I am recovering from surgery. I'm good, guys, but that is why there's no video like visuals this week. It's just going to be an audio only episode because you know what? I don't look my best right now, and that's okay.
That's okay. Throwing it back to when we used to only do audio.
Yeah. It's so crazy that we only started doing video with the start of series 5.
Oh, yeah. We were supposed to do it back in Series 3, but
Yeah.
I vetoed it because I was just like too I was not in the place to do video at the time.
And that's valid because you know what? It like lined up perfectly to kind of make that
hmm
transition into a new era.
Exactly. It worked out. It was the same time as our rebrand. It was
Mhm.
perfect.
Yes. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here. A little hot, a little tired, but I'm very
Same.
excited to be talking about this episode.
Me too.
Are you ready for some fantastic facts?
Yes, I am.
So this episode was written by Toby Whithouse. We know and love
Yes.
him from School Reunion, Vampires in Venice, The God Complex. It was directed by Saul Metzstein, who obviously did last week's episode. The original title was The Gunslinger, and then it was also briefly named simply Mercy.
Okay then.
Yeah, The
I like it.
Gunslinger is good.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. The Gunslinger is good, but Mercy I feel is just too vague.
I agree. I really like the title of this episode, A Town Called Mercy.
Same.
So originally, College X was going to die like kind of mid episode, at least
Oh.
like earlier than he does. Spoilers. He was going to be shot and killed by Isaac's father, which
Oh.
would leave the gunslinger to seek out revenge on the entire town. And then the doctor would diffuse the situation by showing him a woman wearing the same pendant that he was wearing to remind him to protect innocent lives. I don't know. This is all coming from, research I did, but yeah, so the alternate ending and not even just ending kind of changes a lot of the episode.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would have been interesting to see like how would the episode have concluded and continued if he was killed in the middle of the episode, but I feel like they made a good choice with not choosing to go this route just because I feel like it makes it more clunky and it's like more characters and it kind of like takes attention away from like the core of this episode, I feel.
I agree. I think it's more interesting having College X live longer in the episode and ultimately make the
Yeah.
decision that he does. Another thing that was scrapped from the episode was that the gunslinger would play music to scare people before he killed them, essentially, or before he arrived somewhere. And it would be revealed that the music he was playing was the same music that College X would play while operating on people to drown out the sounds of their screams, which is
Okay,
kind of dark.
that's really dark, but I think I would like that addition. I think it would add to it.
Same. I definitely agree. It would have hit in a really interesting way and just been kind of dark, but I like it.
Yeah, same. It reminds me of series 2 in Rise of the Cybermen Age of Steel when
Yes.
it's yeah, you know what I'm talking about, in the jungle, the mighty jungle, while everyone's being turned into a Cyberman.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like. All right. What are your general thoughts on A Town Called Mercy?
My general thoughts are that I love this episode, guys. Like this is such an underappreciated episode. I think there is so much here, so much to pull from. And I really like this different setting. We've talked about how Series 7A was intentionally created to be more of a monster of the week instead of having like an arc over all of these episodes. And so this definitely adds to 7A, I think, in a really intriguing way with Amy and Rory, with 11. He just, dealt with in Series 6 his mortality and dealt with all of the stuff that happened in A Good Man Goes to War. So that's still fresh, but he's in a little bit of a better headspace. But it's really interesting to see how all the discussions in this episode really impact him mentally, and you can see the scars that are there. And I just love that conversation in that light.
I agree. This is another Toby Whithouse banger, in my opinion. There's a reason he's one of my favorite reoccurring writers from this era. The
Mm-hmm.
writing just always delivers. The dynamics between the characters are so interesting, between the Doctor and Jex, between Jex and the gunslinger, Amy and the Doctor, the town as a whole, the way the town is a character in this, the Western setting, that's unique. It's not something we see all the time in Doctor Who. I love everything about this episode. It's always been one of the highlights of 7A for me, and one I've been looking forward to talking about on this podcast for quite a while now.
Me too. And it's really exciting to say that we're back in America, guys. We're back in America on the show.
We are. This is supposed to be Texas, right?
Oh, I assumed that. Okay, I guess that would make sense. Because why was I assuming like New Mexico, Arizona, California, that general area? I mean, I know that's a big spread out area, but like.
I mean, it's kind of just old desert at that point.
No, exactly. But no, Texas would make sense. Would still make sense, yeah. Because at one point, Isaac, I think, mentions how like Mexico is like 200 or 300 miles south. So yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. But yeah, we're back in America. There's a really funny line I like later on. I'll talk about. That's one of my favorite jokes in the episode. Yeah, we were just here, right? We were just. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, in Utah.
Impossible Astronaut. Oh yeah, all that.
Yeah, Impossible Astronaut, Save the Moon. Technically, the Wedding of River Song. So it's fun to have some. There's that moment on the beach on Lake Silencio.
Oh
And
yes,
Wedding
yes,
of River
yes. I was
Song.
like, what? I was thinking about the pyramids, and I was like, those weren't in America. But
No.
okay.
Well, I mean, one of the pyramids did have an American flag, though.
It did, yeah. But so we start off with some narration. We only get it at the beginning and the end, but it's still a nice bookend on the episode. And they love a doctor fake out. There's two in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about like a man who comes down from the stars, and you think, oh, it's the Doctor, because that's what we've come to expect. And then later we learn they weren't talking about the Doctor. But then there's another one where we see the gunslinger, and he says he's looking for the Doctor. I feel like this is we've had so many like fake out moments like this fairly recently, where someone says they're looking for the Doctor, but it's not the Doctor, it's a different Doctor. Oh, like we just kind of had that in last week's episode with Solomon saying he was looking, like it kind of made it seem like he was looking for the Doctor, but he was just looking for a Doctor.
Yeah, no, you're right. So it kind of loses its appeal in this episode just because it's been happening so much recently, I feel.
Yeah, but I still like it here.
Me too.
I think it goes into an interesting place. I love a creepy little Western town. I think the setting is really fun in this episode. We meet up with the Doctor, Amy, and Rory. We don't know. It's kind of interesting. We don't know like how long they've been traveling together at this point, where they are in their adventures. We just kind of pick up with them in the middle here, which is fun. We need to talk about Amy's pineapple dress, because what's going on there?
That's really funny because I was going to ask you about her pineapple dress. It is very of the time.
It is. It is, and yet I can't imagine Amy wearing this. I mean, obviously she does, but it doesn't really give Amy at all.
Yeah, it's definitely not fully Amy, but also like I feel like in the 2012 era, 2013 era, there was a lot of clothes that looking back, you're like, why did I wear that? Why was this fashionable? That is like not me whatsoever, but it was just of the time. It's not the worst. It's definitely has more personality than like her Series 6 outfits.
I like it, and I would like it a lot more if it just didn't have the pineapples on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think for me, I don't have as big of a problem with it because like her whole ensemble is just like almost monochromatic. And so I feel like it's not too out there. It's not my fave. I don't look at that dress and think Amy Pond at all, but I'm also like,
No.
she's genuinely worn other clothes that like I would choose this over that.
I agree. It's not her worst outfit. Just the pineapples really take me out of it. But it was kind of the thing back in 2012 to wear
Yeah.
random items of food on your clothing, donuts, avocados, bacon, anything you can think of. They were
Oh
putting
my
on it.
gosh,
They were putting it
bacon.
on a shirt.
Bacon was everywhere. Eggs and bacon was everywhere.
Yes. Yeah. And donuts and avocados, I feel like were a big
Mm-hmm.
thing. Okay, I love the doctor walking into the bar and ordering tea and like almost choking on the toothpick. That's very funny.
I love his whole cowboy cosplay moment where he's doing the
Mm-hmm.
walk. He's trying to have a southern accent. He's chewing the toothpick. He's going to order at the saloon. And he just fails so miserably at it. And it's so funny to watch. I do have to just have like a sidebar right here. The, what do you call her? Barmaid, bartender, her dress,
Mm-hmm.
her ensemble, I love it.
Yes, every time she was on screen, I found myself captivated by her because yes, her
Mm-hmm.
whole look, love it.
Love it so much. I mean, we'll get Amy in a period costume next week, but I
Oh,
really wish Amy had more like era appropriate attire in some of these episodes.
me too. A little Western outfit would have been so fun
Yes.
here.
So fun. And it would have been fun to see Rory in a Western outfit too.
Mm-hmm. Side note, Arthur Delville looks really good in this episode.
He does. He looks really good in this episode.
Yeah. Series 7A, he really had it going here.
He really did. He really cooked.
Yeah. For as deep and at times even dark this episode is, it still has a lot of really funny moments, which I appreciate. Just as soon as the doctor says he's the doctor, the whole bar kind of stands up, and then we just get this guy asking straight up if he's an alien. And I really like that. You're not expecting that. We don't usually have people asking us that right off the bat. So that's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the doctor even being a little surprised by it. He's like, oh, that's a bit personal. And, you know, it's all based on perspective. But yeah, basically, I am an alien. And then everyone just freaking out. Very fun. Definitely pulls you into the episode, definitely intrigues you. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is not your ordinary Western town. Something is going on here. And I think it's just a really intriguing way to get the episode going.
I agree. I love when they throw him out of the saloon and then like start like walking out of the to throw him out of the town, and he's just yelling while they're carrying him. Everything's under control. Don't worry. And then you have Amy being like, "You can't kill us," and Rory's like, "Leave her alone." It's just really comedic to watch. And yeah, 11 being thrown over the boundary line is really funny, especially when he stands up and cracks. Oh my gosh, the amount of cracks this man does in this episode, like cracking his back and neck.
I also love the Undertaker measuring him for his coffee.
Yeah.
He's like a new customer in town. Perfect.
Which I'm like, why are you doing that so quickly?
Hey,
Like,
he's got to do something.
true, but like, what is in this town besides the gunslinger and then Collar Jacks? Like, they don't know who the doctor is at this point.
No, it is really funny. Maybe he's like, I gotta have these coffins pre-made. There's nowhere to not. There's no good place to store dead bodies at this time. So he's like, I gotta have this
Mm.
thing ready to go.
He's like, it takes 3 weeks to make a coffin. I need as much time as I can get.
Also, did you notice on the sign up front how they like had the original town population? I think it was 89, and then they scratched it off to make 81.
Wait,
It's just
what?
funny to me. Yeah, it's just funny to me to think of someone like going and having to update the town population.
That's so funny. I This is a side note, but something I always wonder when I pass like signs noting the population, when it doesn't reference the year, I'm like, how long has this sign been up? Like,
No,
how do we know it's accurate?
same. I know. I hate when they don't have the year in there because I'm like, I feel like that's not accurate.
Yeah, I will tell you though, when I was on vacation with my family this summer, we were driving through, I think it was Nebraska, and we passed a town, population 4, and the whole town was 2 houses, and that was it. So I think that was fairly accurate.
Yeah, there's some towns like that near me where it really is just a couple people in a couple houses up there.
And then this is the moment where the gunslinger pops up, and everyone is like pointing their guns at 11 to keep him out of the town. And then the sheriff comes in and saves the day.
Yes, the marshal, Isaac. I love Isaac.
Me too. I looked this up because I just had to like see, because at first I was like, dang, this guy's doing a really great American accent. He's American. That would be why.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I am curious about everyone else though that had lines, if they were also American or they were like
Mm.
British, you know?
I bet the guy that asked the doctor if he's an alien, I bet that guy's British. I don't think
I
he's
think so
really
too.
American. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love when they're like, he said he's an alien doctor, like he could be the one, and Isaac just says, you know it's not him, you know it ain't. Again, like I really like the mystery that they're setting up here. It really is intriguing the first time you're watching it, and you're like, okay, this is interesting, this is different. And then we find out that basically the gunslinger has trapped the town 3 weeks ago, and essentially they're at the verge of starving to death because no one can get in or out, and no food can get in, which I think is an interesting. It adds an interesting dynamic to the episode, and kind of explains like why the town is as frightened as they are and is on edge as they are.
Yeah, and as Eleven is like finding this information out and asks like, what does the gunslinger do? Isaac shows him a Stetson that has been like shot through, and 11 immediately gets upset and says he shoots people's hats. And I just love that line and delivery so much, and it's so funny to me how immediately after Amy is like, hey, it was probably a warning shot. Like, dude, it had nothing to do with the hat. But I love that his Stetson hat is restored.
It is. I think it's funny that he just wears that hat with the bullet hole in it. And his reaction is funny. It's personal for him. He understands that feeling of someone shooting your hats, so he gets it.
He gets it. He had it happen with the Fez. He had it happen with his own Stetson that Craig, of all people, gave him.
Ugh,
I get it.
yeah, yeah. This is also when we find out that they were supposed to be going to Mexico. So another episode for the Ponds where they don't end up where they were supposed to go.
I have a question for you, Rebecca, because back in Cold Blood, whatever the other part is called in Series 5, you brought up how Amy's attire wasn't giving Rio. What's your opinion on her attire here? Is it giving Mexico?
No, it's not. And she says they're
Okay.
going to the Day of the Dead festival. And it's like, you're not going to get in the moment. I mean, not you can
Yeah.
dress for the occasion without culturally appropriating, let me be clear. But I was like, really? This is what she's wearing to Mexico?
No, I'm like, first off, why are you wearing a leather jacket to Mexico? Absolutely not. Rule number 1, you're going to be so hot.
Mm-hmm. Very odd attire, but I was like, I have to let this go. I have to be at peace with this.
Growth.
Yes. And then so the doctor figures out, he's we didn't mention this, but the town has electricity 3 years or
Yeah.
10 years too
10.
early.
Yeah, and Rory says it's close enough, basically. And Eleven's like, Rory, that's what you said when you left your phone charger in Henry the Eighth's bathroom, which is really funny to me. It is Henry the Eighth, right? Did I
It
get the right
is.
numbering? Okay.
It is, yes. And we talked about this last week with the letter we got from Jen. This is why people think, the doctor was going out of order with his adventures with the Bonds, which makes me, I would love to ask if they changed the episode order around for this. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
this was supposed to be before Angels Take Manhattan, after the Power of Three. I don't know. I would love to find that out. But or is it just like a weird coincidence where they were talking about Henry VIII? I don't know.
I don't know, but 11 does say anachronistic electricity, keep out signs, aggressive stares. Has someone been peeking up on my Christmas list?
Yes, I thought that was fun too, especially since he was talking about his Christmas list last
Mm-hmm.
episode.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that line, and so that made me really
Mm-hmm.
happy watching the episode today. And then we are officially introduced to Collar Jex, the alien doctor that the town has been meaning. And 11 says that the collar is one of the most ingenious species in the galaxy. They could build a spaceship out of Tupperware and moss.
I think it's funny to me they introduce this alien species, but they just basically look like people. Not look like people. They look like humans, but they have the black marking on their face to
Mm-hmm.
show, oh no, they're alien. That's very funny to me.
It is, but I kind of like the simplicity of it.
I agree. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's a little funny, but I think it
Mm-hmm.
works for what this episode is for sure. So Isaac is talking. He is, defending Jack. He's defending Jex. He's talking about how he saved the town from cholera. No one got it. No one died. Obviously, he gave them
Mm-hmm.
electricity. And it sounds like he's been there for quite a few years at this point.
Yeah, at least like 3 years. 'Cause
Mm-hmm.
someone mentioned something about 3 years. So he's been there for a good chunk of time, like establishing trust and connecting with everyone in town.
Isaac seems like a really nice guy. He says, he doesn't
Yeah.
really care about Jex's past. He believes, America is a land of second chances. And I think it's, very sweet. And even Jex is kind
Mm-hmm.
of like, the town has a right to be scared. It's not their fault. And Isaac says, them being scared is what scares me, which I think is really interesting. I do love that reoccurring theme throughout this episode of how just a group of people being scared can sometimes be the scariest thing in and of itself. And yeah, I really like I really like the side character of Isaac. I think it's rare in this era that we get these really interesting side characters. We talked about last week, they
Mm-hmm.
tried to do a whole ensemble of characters, and it worked. It wasn't like the most interesting thing to us personally,
Yeah,
but Isaac is a character that I do find really interesting.
I agree. I really love Isaac because of just how much you can see he loves the people of his town and how much he's willing to go to bat for them, but also be fair. And I really like seeing that. And 11 decides that, like, hey, we're going to keep it nice and simple and easy, going to evacuate the town, take care of the gunslinger, and like, we're out of here. So the plan is that Rory and Isaac are going to run outside of the boundary and hide out in the desert, while 11 gets the horse Susan. Iconic, by the way. I
Yes.
remember that Tumblr post.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Is this a early Susan Twist splinter?
Girl, don't you even. I know you're kidding, but I can't go there.
No, but love the horse Susan.
Mm-hmm. And he is going to like head off to the TARDIS, but there's something nagging him. His Dr. Spidey senses are,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they're up. And so he ends up finding Jex's ship and he breaks in there. And of course, it starts alarming. And it's really, I don't know why, I just find it really funny how the user interface is like, we've been incinerating people for 3 centuries now. 10
Yeah,
seconds.
it really reminded. I know it really reminded me of what's the evil company that Moffat loves to reference all the time? It was in Boom and Joy to the World. Vellengard?
Villengard, yeah, Villengard.
Villengard. It was giving that, so that was kind of fun. We also find out, like, before the doctor gets to the ship, he mentions his age. He's 1200. I forget what he said last time we talked about the doctor's age, but we made it a mission on this
Yeah.
pod to track the doctor's age. I don't think
I
we've been
think-
doing very well, but
No, not recently. I think he's a couple hundred years older than the last time he mentioned it.
I think so. I'm really trying to remember how old he said he was in Impossible Astronaut before he dies.
Oh. Why do I want to say 1203, but that's wrong.
Oh, you might be right.
Okay. I just searched it up, and according to Google, 11 was 1,103 years old.
Oh, wait, 1,103?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
1,103.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
so 1,200, that makes sense. That works.
that does work. Okay, so that's not as much as I thought.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're inching closer to the point where the age just is going to become impossible to track very soon.
Yeah.
I mean, already knowing what we know based off of future things that happen, it's already a little pointless, but we'll get there.
We will get there. There's a certain era of the show where I'm like, I don't know if that will mark the end of us tracking the age.
Yeah, kind of all goes out the window at a certain point. Okay, so yes, the scene in Jex's ship, I really like this scene, how it's filmed. The direction in this episode, I think, is done really well. And I really like particularly how this scene is filmed with the doctor going through the personal files, learning what Jex did. We don't get to see it. We don't get to hear or see the screen. We just hear the screen, people screaming, and we see the reflection, the text on the doctor's face, the doctor's reaction. I think it's really powerful and conveys what it needs to convey without us actually seeing anything. And I think they did a really good job in that moment.
And I really again, just like complimenting Matt Smith and his acting, I really like how his expression just shifts and you can see that shift, and it really helps communicate just how, I don't know what the right word is, but just like how awful the whole situation was that Jex was involved in. And of course, we don't know all of the details yet, but we know it was bad and we know there was a lot of suffering involved. And then we pan back to Amy and Jex, and they're both there in the jail. And Color Jex has kind of like a mini monologue, and tell me if I'm seeing things. I might be seeing things, reading too much into this. But he says, because Amy's like, after this is all wrapped up, we can, take you back home. And he says, thanks, but I have already given everything I have to the Caller. My skills, my energy, All that was good in me, but here I could start afresh. I could remember myself and help people. That's all I ever wanted to do. And to me in the scene, Amy's just kind of giving me the vibe of she's pondering what he's saying. And it just made me really think about how she gave so much of herself to the doctor and the travels, her childhood with her imaginary friend, running away on her wedding night, Rory dying multiple times and losing him and then bringing him back, losing her baby, being kidnapped. Like, she has given it all. And I don't know, this moment almost made me really think that she's actually pondering, like, just how much she has given to the doctor herself.
That's really interesting. I've never interpreted that scene that way, but I do think that is an interesting read on it. To me, I just see it as Jax being coy about why he doesn't want to go back home, because he knows, obviously, he probably wouldn't be a warm welcome. I'm guessing based off of what we know.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that. It's very interesting, your interpretation of it. I think that is an interesting way to look at it. Something that I always find really fascinating is how he can tell immediately, pretty much immediately,
Mm-hmm.
that Amy's a mother.
Yes, and it is so good to see some representation of Amy being a mother on screen and
Yes.
having it be talked about.
Yes, I feel like this is the only scene that kind of talks about it outside the context of the river and melody of it all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is the only time outside of that where she really talks about being a mom, or someone talks to her about her being a mom, which I find really interesting. And it always kind of breaks my heart when he says he can tell because there's kindness in her eyes, but also sadness in her eyes. And if that doesn't sum up Amy's situation with motherhood,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what does. So that's always just really sad to me.
It's so sad. That part always sticks out to me as well. And how she just says to him that it wasn't exactly straightforward, and he just says it seldom is. And like, he doesn't know. And I just find that moment really interesting to watch. And again, it just makes me so sad for Amy and all that was stolen
Yeah.
from her.
And kind of a just honestly disgusting moment. She asked him if he's a parent, and he says, in a way, I am. And knowing what we know, oh, that's
Mm,
horrible. That's just kind of awful and disgusting.
absolutely disgusting.
So essentially, we find out that Jax, on his planet, while his planet was at war, it was a 9-year war. Basically, they recruited people and they were going to be like, come help fight the war. But what they didn't tell them is that they were essentially going to be turned into cyborgs, killing machines. It sounded like the people were essentially turned into cyborgs and killing machines that didn't really have any control or any of their own agency. Do you know what I mean? Because he mentions that, one of them, something went wrong, and then they started going after the team that was behind the creation of this whole program or whatever it was.
Yeah, the people involved definitely did not have any agency whatsoever. I mean, Jax mentions they thought, they were lured by the concept of a really special program. And of course, it's the middle of the war.
Mm-hmm.
They want to help. And I can't imagine any one of them would have consented to what ended up happening, because so many were essentially tortured and suffered. There was people, it sounds like the way that Jax was talking, like there was some that died, and then after the war was
Mm-hmm.
over, they were all decommissioned, which means they were all killed and shut down. And so the whole concept is just so dark and so devastating to think about. And we've seen it so many times with 11 that he has just that simmering fury of a Time Lord under the surface that he just can't quite control here.
Yeah, what do you think about how he responds to all this?
I find his response really, I feel like I keep saying interesting, but it is, because
Mm-hmm.
he's disgusted. He is mad. He cannot deal with it. And he's just standing there in the corner of the jail, just lost in his own head. Amy and Rory are kind of going back and forth about like, what's next? What are we going to do with him? He's a war criminal. Isaac is like, America's the land of second chances. Like, he's our town doctor. And he's so out of it until Jack says, looking at you, doctor, is like looking into a mirror almost. There's rage there like me, guilt like me, solitude, everything, but the nerve to do what needs to be done. Thank the gods my people weren't relying on you to save them. And it's at that moment that 11 is done because he was already going through in his head what to do. And that was the last straw. And he throws Jex out of town. And it really shows that, like, 11 just has this sense of justice, but at the same time, so much anger because he sees himself in Jex. He hasn't done what Jex has done, precisely, but he sees a lot of the same qualities and he can't stand it.
I agree. I think he does see a lot of the parallels to what he did with Gallifrey, destroying his people. There are those connections there. Like
Mm-hmm.
Jack says, it's like looking in a mirror. I love I love the darker doctor moments. Matt Smith especially performs them so well. It's what makes his doctor so interesting, and it what makes his performance stand out as the doctor. I love seeing the rage just boil up to the surface in the scene. He comes back to the jail, already so full of rage. He's yelling at him. He says, how many people died screaming on your operating table before you found your advantage? And yeah, then he just loses it and pushes Jex out of town. And I do like what he says. He's pointing the gun at Jex, and Jex says, "You're not going to do it." And the doctor says, "I genuinely don't know." It is really one of those moments for the doctor where he could go down that darker path. He could go down that Time Lord victorious path and take the shot. And I love that he's honest. He doesn't know if he's going to do it or not. And I also really love the dynamic with Amy in this scene.
Me too. I love that she also pulls the gun to really bring the attention and kind of like stop the doctor. I find the way that it's done, it is kind of funny, especially like the accidental shots. It's played for laughs,
Yeah.
definitely. But I like it because it really stops 11 in his tracks because he's like, Amy, you're not going to shoot me. And she's like, how do you know? Maybe I've changed. You've certainly taken a lot of stupid lessons since we last saw you. Um, he kind of goes off and says, but they keep coming back. Don't you see? Every time I negotiate, I try to understand. Well, not today. No. Today I honor the victims first. His, the masters, the Daleks, all the people who died because of my mercy. And Amy just says, this is what happens when you travel alone too long. And she tells him off and says, we have to be better than Jex. And I love that because everything she said was true.
I love how Amy is able to talk the doctor off the ledge in this moment. It really shows how much she's grown, how she's grown as a companion, how close they are. And yeah, she's come a long way since the moment she had with Madame Kavarian at the end of season 6, and she is able to talk to the doctor off of doing essentially kind of what she did in that scenario. And I also love hearing the 11th Doctor, especially, mention the Master, just does something to me.
No, for real.
I also do like how he says, for once he's going to honor the victims, the Masters, the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that is something that the Doctor doesn't always get to do. He's right in
Mm-hmm.
this moment. He does show mercy. He does show understanding. I think this is such a silly example, But I think about in End of Time, you remember how the master literally ate a bunch of people? Like he ate those
Mm-hmm.
homeless people, and the doctor just kind of let that
Yeah.
go, you know? He didn't have really all the time to deal with that. But that happens a lot in the show. A lot of
Yeah.
people who do a lot of horrible things, the doctor does try to give them a second chance and to find a better way out. And in a way, that is a good thing. I think the doctor should always do that. You know, he shouldn't just be some space vigilante seeking
Mm-hmm.
revenge and whatnot. But I do like the idea here. You know, personally, I want to see some kind of justice for
Yeah.
victims and people who suffered from the Daleks, the Master, whoever it may be. So I see both sides of this argument, and I think
Same.
that's what makes it so interesting. That's what makes a dynamic so good, is when you can kind of be like, well, I kind of see both sides of this.
Yeah, and it really ties back into kind of the overall message of this episode is that not everything is black or white. Not everything is like you're not able to put everything in this tidy little box. Because again, like you said, like you don't want to see the doctor really being a vigilante, but at the same time, it would be nice to like see one time of what that would look like, of what it would look like if he honored the victims first instead of giving mercy. But then he also wouldn't fully be the doctor. And
Hmm.
it really makes you think in this episode.
Yeah. She also says to the doctor, you know, this is what happens when you travel alone for too long. And I don't care how many times it happens on this show. I always kind of love when
Mm-hmm.
people call out the doctor for not being able to travel alone and how much he needs people, because it's true. He really does. I think if he was left to his own devices, he would go down these darker paths and, you know, take actions like this into his own hands. And we're about to see a version of this doctor who does spend a lot of time alone, and seeing how that impacts him is going to be really interesting. We're going to have a lot to talk about.
We are definitely going to have so much to talk about, but Jex is standing over that boundary line. The gunslinger comes up right behind him, and Jex is just standing there waiting for the shot. And Isaac shoves him and takes his place, and he gets shot by the gunslinger, and it's a really sad moment. And 11 is very upset. He's like, come on, there's time, like get you to the surgeon, like
Mm.
we can make this happen. But Isaac knows there's not enough time, and his parting words to 11 are, you're both good men, you just forget it sometimes, which
Yeah,
is
I this stuff,
interesting.
it is. I think naively he said he sees a lot of good in Jax, but I also
Yeah.
understand it. Like he has that line earlier in the episode where he's like, he's not any of those things. He's not a war criminal. He's the guy that saved the town from cholera. Like he has a
Mm-hmm.
completely different perspective on it, and he does believe, you know, this is a place where people can change and become someone new. And there is something beautiful to that, even if it is a little naive. And you know, I don't know if I fully agree with that in this scenario,
Yeah.
that is. But yeah, Isaac's stuff is really sad, and it definitely kind of haunts the narrative a bit in the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
episode. Also, Jex had so much time to move across that town line. The doctor
He
tells
did.
him to come back. He had a good 20 seconds before the gunslinger showed up, and he was just standing there.
Yeah, he was just standing there. And here's the thing that really annoys me about Jax. It's like the quote unquote good side of him that the town saw with him helping them with the cholera. That in this episode never felt genuine. None of that ever
Hmm.
felt genuine. It felt like he was using it to manipulate people, to manipulate like their compassion and emotions so he could keep living and keep going. And he was giving coward to me. Like at the end of the day, he was giving coward.
Absolutely. And the doctor does call him out on this a little later on. Like, you essentially chose your own punishment, and you think
Mm-hmm.
that it works that way, that you can decide how you repay your debt. and you think being the town doctor, giving the town electricity, that is going to make everything better, but it doesn't. And I do find that really really interesting, how he's like, hey, look at all the good things I've done. Like, I'm not just this horrible person. I do like the line that he says later on, it would be so much easier for you if I was just one
Mm-hmm.
thing, if I was just the town doctor, or if I was just the war criminal. But
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm complicated, and that is true of people. So I find that really interesting. Before we move on too much, I have to mention one of my favorite jokes of the episode is when Isaac says, "Everyone who's not an American, put down your gun."
I love that line so much. So, so much.
Yes, as an American, it always makes me laugh. Because yeah, if I was around a lot of British people, to be fair, if I was around anyone with a bunch of guns, I I would not
Yeah.
feel great about it. But
Mm-mm.
especially people who aren't used to it, who don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
properly handle
Yeah.
weapons like that, it would be a little unnerving. So that's always one of my favorite jokes in this episode.
Same. And another joke, it's not so much a joke, it's more of a one liner that 11 has because, there's a deadline for noon the next day. So everyone goes like to bed and whatnot. And the Ponce and 11 and Jax all go back to the jail. And then, of course, like there's a mob of people outside being like, just go for a stroll. We'll take care of it. And then we'll all be good. And 11's like, no, don't do that. But like at the end of all of that, he says, frighten people, give me a Dalek any day, which I find so funny, but I can't fault him for that because at least a Dalek is predictable. Frighten people, you don't
Hmm.
know what you're gonna get.
I mean, let's not forget the midnight bus people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah, I do love
exactly.
that line. I also love when Amy is like, "Oh God, you're the marshal," and he's like, "Yeah, and you're the deputy."
I love how the one guy, I forgot if he has a name or not, but he comes into the jail and he's like,
Yes,
Marshal, deputy, fella?
and Rory's like, "Fair enough."
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I forgot to mention this. Um, when Amy has the gun and 11, like that whole thing is going on, it just like the camera quickly pans to Rory and he's just like shaking his head and rolling his eyes. Like, of course.
Yeah, Rory is not having it here. It's very funny.
Yeah.
But I do like this scene. I don't know who this young guy is. I don't think
Me
they ever said
either.
his name. He's the young
Mm-mm.
kid in town, okay? He's 18. I love when he's like, I'm almost 19, and the doctor says, okay, so 18. um, but yeah, I love how essentially he has to do for this kid what Amy just did for him. He has to save the kid from himself, just like Amy did for him just moments ago. And it really is an interesting dynamic with this town.
Mm-hmm.
Even the townspeople are kind of going back and forth, and he's like, "Hey, look, we have no beef with the doctor, but we have kids here, or families are here. We're gonna starve to death pretty soon if this doesn't get resolved."
Yeah, and I like that we see where their heads are at, that they're going back and forth. I like the involvement of them.
Hmm. I love a good any kind of show, movie, TV show, whatever that has a lot of townies, and you get to see a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
background side characters get fleshed out. Shows like Gilmore Girls, Parks and Rec, Schitt's
Yeah.
Creek. Give it to me any day. I love it.
There could have been more, I think, in this episode done,
Totally.
but I do like what we get. And back in the jail, this is when Jex and 11 are really going at it. And Jex says to 11, like, you don't think that every time I close my eyes, I don't hear screaming? And like you said, like, this is also the moment where he said, like, it would be so much simpler if I was just one thing. But I like that we get that because as much as I dislike Jex and I think he's really conniving and very cowardice, I do like the thread of him talking about how in his culture they believe that when they die, they carry all of the souls that they had a hand in killing. essentially. And that part of this whole story I really like, especially at the end, and we'll get to that.
I really like that as well. That's an image that I think about all the time from this episode. The idea that when you die, you have to carry all the souls that you harmed up this
Mm-hmm.
mountain. And he talks about, like, imagine the weight that I will have to carry, the gunslinger, Isaacs, all these people. That's one of those things from the show that I just think about all the time. I don't know why, but just that image is really, really fascinating to me and interesting.
And then it is noon, and there's a standoff between the gunslinger and 11 in the middle of town. Streets are fully empty, and 11 essentially disorients him with a sonic screwdriver, of course, and uses Rory and the kid. That's just what I'm coining, the one dude that doesn't have a name, who's
Yeah.
nearly 19. Um, they're acting as decoys, and everyone else is in the church, and the gunslinger is trying to like find Jex while Jex is making his escape to his ship.
Yeah, this kind of goes on for a while. It seems like kind of
Mm-hmm.
the whole town is in on this trick.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what do you think about what Jex does here in the end?
Here in the end, I think it's definitely a satisfying conclusion, and I do ultimately, as sad as it is, like I do ultimately like that he chose like his ending, because he could have
Hmm.
escaped, but he did ultimately realize that the gunslinger would pull apart the universe literally to find Jex and would destroy other worlds. And I do have to at least respect that, like, at that moment, he stopped being a coward. He stopped being like manipulative, and he just took it for what it was and chose to face all of the souls that he harmed to stop everyone else from suffering because of it. I really like how he says, I'm ending the war for you two, right before he self destructs.
I agree. I really love that line. And even the gunslinger says, in the end, he did have more honor than I did. It is a really interesting way out, because, yeah, if he did just escape, go somewhere else, the gunslinger would have tracked him down. And he says, more people would have gotten in harm's way. And I do think it's a satisfying ending because this character does deserve to be punished in a way. He doesn't deserve to just go on living a peaceful, happy life. But at the same time, it is complicated. It's like we keep saying, he's not just one thing. So I think this was a satisfying way to end the episode, end his character in a way. And I really love the ending for the gunslinger. He has
Mm-hmm.
this moment that he's like, there's no place for me in peace times. I'm just going to go out into the desert and kill myself, essentially. But then the doctor
Mm-hmm.
says, what if you could protect peace? And then he just becomes the town marshal. And I think that's really, really beautiful. I love this sci-fi ending, how he just kind of lives forever protecting this town. I love the narration at the end, the
Mm-hmm.
reveal that the man they were talking about in the beginning was the gunslinger. We're hearing this narration from the granddaughter of this little girl that we see in the town. And I always think about that line, how she says, if you ask someone in Mercy why they don't have any police or a sheriff, they'll be like, well, we got our own sort of agreement. So I think it's a really, really good ending.
I completely agree with you. And when I was watching this episode, I was like, dang, they were talking about like the gunslinger protecting peace, but we didn't see it happen. And then literally one of the last shots is him protecting Mercy. So that was
Hmm.
me forgetting. But yeah, I love that ending with him protecting the town. I love, like you said, the narration. I find that really, really fun, and it adds to this episode for sure.
What do you think about the ending we get with the pawns in this episode? Amy says they after Amy gives that whole speech
No,
about the doctor not
literally.
traveling alone, she's like, "Yeah, we got to go back home because our friends are gonna notice that we're aging faster than they are."
That made me roll my eyes because I'm like, you can't complain last week that he's weaning you, like he's weaning you guys off of him, and then in the same breath, then ask to go back home and ask to go back home again today.
Also, you're not gonna go to Mexico. What happened to Mexico?
What happened to? No, exactly. I it actually makes me upset, but it makes me even more upset that there's only 2 more episodes with the Pawns guys, but you know what? We're going to forever talk about them and there's going to be no ending.
No, exactly. They're not going anywhere. What are you talking about? They stay forever.
Exactly.
I do think it is kind of creepy to think about the idea of them aging faster than all their friends.
Yeah.
That is kind of a creepy consequence for companions that you don't really think about.
Very could be very Black Mirror, if you will.
Definitely. A little interstellar in a way too. And I'm so excited for next week to get more into what their lives look like and kind of the consequences they have to deal with because their lives are so complicated. It's going to be a very fun discussion next week.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. But Rebecca, who is the star of the show for you?
I'm giving it to The Undertaker for,
Yeah.
just having those measurements ready to go. We didn't mention it, but he did. He has this really funny moment with the doctor after he stops the kid from, trying to kill Jax, where he's like, I believe in you because Isaac believed in you. But then he does go and still he's trying to measure the doctor for his coffin. Very funny. He's on top of his job. Add some nice humor and color to the episode.
I am right there with you.
What is the heart of the episode? I feel like this is a hard one. It could be a lot of things.
Mercy.
Mercy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that however you would like.
A town called Mercy. I just have to shout out my man Toby Whithouse. This is one of my favorite episodes that he does. I think his episodes are always written so well, always have such interesting characters. Episodes like this and the God Complex, I think, really make him stand out as one of the reoccurring guest writers on the show. And I would have loved more of him. And I think not now, but there would have been a time, I think, where I would have been really interested to see what he would have done as showrunner in the past. Not now. I think we need new blood. We've
for sure
said that a million times, but there is a time I think he could have been a really interesting showrunner, and I am really curious what he would have done with the show if he did become showrunner.
Yeah.
Do we have any reviews from the past?
Yes, we do. This first review I have is from the original discussion thread on the Gallifrey subreddit, and the user deleted themselves but left their comment up. So they said, wow, the Doctor has not been that pissed off since Eccleston. I saw definite shades of 9 in there.
Ooh, yeah.
They continue saying, it really appeared that he was going to shoot someone when we know he doesn't like guns. This season will definitely be interesting if there's an arc dealing with the Doctor becoming darker. Maybe there's something to the Valeyard speculation.
Oh.
Which that I feel like that speculation has been there for a long time. That's always like one of the theories.
It has. I remember around series 8 or leading up to series 8, people really thought that was going to be more of a thing because everyone was talking about how Capaldi's Doctor was meant to be this darker Doctor coming in, and everyone was theorizing about what that would look like and if the Valeyard would be part of that.
But we shall see, but it wasn't, obviously. We know that.
No.
Anyways.
If you don't know what the Valeyard, if you don't know what the Valeyard is, honestly, I barely know what it is. It's a classic Who
Yeah,
thing, and it's
it is.
basically just an alternate version of the Doctor in a way. So looking forward to getting there
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah. Classic Who. We're coming for you at some point. Don't
I
know when,
can't wait. It's gonna be really fun.
but it's going to be so much fun. So,
Yeah.
the second review I have is from IMDb and by the user Tweakums, written on September 16th, 2012. And they said that this was a decent enough episode, although the setting never felt real, despite the fact that they clearly had gone to the trouble of filming in a real desert.
They did go to Spain. So
To be fair, though, the desert in this episode really does give like California, Texas, New
it
Mexico,
does.
Arizona, like fully gives that.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, I
this
think it works.
same, they continue saying that I like the fact that neither possible villain was portrayed as evil. The gunslinger just wanted justice, and Jex had done what he thought was right to end a long running war, but still felt guilty about what he had done. It was nice to see Ben Browder, best known as Farscape's protagonist John Crichton, make a guest appearance. Although I almost didn't recognize him, his character looked so different. I was surprised just how little Amy and Rory had to do this episode. Normally, I expect them to get in real danger, but I never thought either was in danger here. It seemed like they were just there so Amy could act as the doctor's conscience when he made a wrong decision.
Yeah, I like what they do with Amy in this episode. I think she's
Mm-hmm.
utilized well. Rory really has nothing to do in this episode, which is fine. I don't always need him necessarily to have something to do. I think there's times he's given more interesting things than Amy. I think we talked about that a little bit in Asylum of the Daleks, I think.
Yeah.
But you know, he serves his role. He's the fella in this episode.
Perfectly put. This last review I have is also from IMDb by the user Gradoon2026 and was written on April 13th, 2015. And they said, at first, the town called Mercy looks like it's going to be a slight send up of the most familiar Western cliches. But as in the previous episode, Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, don't rush to judge a book by its cover. This is actually one of the most serious and adult episodes of the series, dealing with heavy themes and eternal questions, including war crimes and violent revenge, in a thought provoking way. It's not black and white, it's morally complex. There's also a good twist concerning the man who fell from the stars, who was referenced in the opening scene. Episodes like this one belie the ignorant notion that Doctor Who is a children's show.
I agree. That's why this is one of my favorites of this season.
Mm-hmm.
It really stands out. I think it gives us some really interesting character moments. I love the setup and the premise on its own, and it's one of my favorite episodes in this season. I can't say anything more about it. We've just been talking about it for the last hour, but
No, exactly. I just love this episode so much, you guys. This episode is such a gem to me. I really like just like how deeply it really makes you think in this episode. We've talked about before how how Doctor Who as a whole has so many different types of episodes, and that is what makes this show what it is there's a lot of adult themes, but there's also a lot of family themes. And so it's really cool to be able to get different experiences and different things from each episode of the show.
mm-hmm. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode. We will be back next week with The Power of Three. That's going to be a fun one. Until then, you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at TimeyWimeyPod.
And email us anything and everything, and we can read your email out on our podcast. Email to timeyimeypod@gmail.com. And don't forget to leave us a review on your podcast listening platform.
And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye, guys. Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.